Bueno, vamos a dar la bienvenida ahora desde la Organización Mundial de la Salud y gracias a la doctora Fernanda que nos ayudó con este contacto, vamos a recibir a la doctora Czerniak. Ella es oficial técnico para la preparación mundial en enfermedades infecciosas del programa de emergencias en salud de la Organización Mundial de la Salud. Doctora Czerniak, welcome to the UNAL. We are glad to have you here.
Thank you. Really nice to be here. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm delighted to see the attention you're giving to infodemic management.
Thank you for your patience. Now you can share now your screen at the bottom.
Oh, I did. Let me try again.
Okay.
Let's do, oh, it says it's sharing. Let me stop and try again.
Okay.
We go again. Okay. And I'm sharing again.
It takes a little bit. It's okay.
Excellent. Wonderful. Well, I'm very glad to be here today talking about infodemic management and the COVID-19 pandemic. And I wanted to share a little bit of history before talking about where we are now and where we want to head in the future. So it was a year ago, just a few days ago, actually, that the World Health Organization Director General raised the alarm about the twin challenges of fighting an infodemic while also fighting the epidemic. And to make sure that we are all on the same page about understanding this term of infodemic, what I mean there is, well, really, I should say it's about a lot more than misinformation. It's also about an overwhelming amount of information and information gaps and confusing messaging that altogether are making it really difficult for everyone to know what to do as part of the emergency response. And this confusion can lead people to take risks and ignore public health measures that can lead to serious harm. I think we've probably all heard about the tragic reports over the past year of people being poisoned by drinking methanol or improperly using cleaning products. And there has also been polarization about basic safety measures, such as wearing masks. So the question we have now in front of us is, how did we get here to this point where we're struggling to be able to parse fact and fiction and understand, what it is that we really need to be doing for a strong pandemic response? So our communication ecosystem today, it looks very different from how it did 100 years ago. Advances in digital media have really made it easier than ever before to rapidly share unverified content. But I want to be clear that I'm not here to point any fingers or assign any blame for digital platforms, because they're also providing a service in providing new ways for us to share good information and expert advice to help people make more informed decisions about their health. So this problem that we're facing of rumors and conspiracy theories, it's not unique to the digital space. This is a long history of people sharing harmful narratives that are counterproductive to public health measures. As an example, I can think of, there was a cholera outbreak in France in the 1800s, I believe it was the 1830s, and there was no internet at that time, right? No social media, but there was still a conspiracy theory that was circulating, and this was offline, about the illness being a hoax. And I think the idea that they had at the time was that it was maybe the doctors that were trying to poison the working class. Not true at all. It was a cholera outbreak. So what this tells us is that we have a big job ahead of us to try and better manage our entire communication ecosystem, both online and offline, so that we can ensure universal access to credible health information as a basic human right. So how are we going to do this? That's the question. So there are many things we need to do, but let me start off with some immediate priorities that we're looking at for the COVID-19 pandemic right now. So 4 key things we need to be doing now: listening to the concerns of people around us from a place of empathy to better understand where they're coming from. People don't necessarily intend to share the wrong messages or the wrong information. Most people are sincere in trying to figure out what's happening and share the right information with their friends and family and neighbors. We also need to focus on sharing evidence and communicating better about the risks and benefits in a way that is more timely and easy for people to understand, and translate that into action, practical and sustainable action. And, with a new situation for COVID-19, we don't have all the evidence up front at the beginning of a new health emergency. And so it's important to also develop our critical thinking skills and to keep paying attention to the changing information as new evidence comes to light, so that we can assess how we might need to adjust our approaches. And it's a good thing if public health measures are changing, because it means they're responding to the science. The third thing we really need to focus on is protecting freedom of speech and promoting resilience to harmful messages. So to be clear, the solution, it isn't about trying to censor everyone and everything. It's really about making sure that we all have the skills to be able to separate fact from fiction and identify that really good quality health information that we need to make informed decisions. And the fourth thing that is an important focus for us right now is empowering people and their communities to be able to take positive action. So enabling those good health behaviors. And this, if we dig into this a little bit deeper, starting with the first priority of listening to concerns. So we need to better understand what people are thinking, what's motivating them to share information in the first place, and the kinds of information that they're sharing, how they're sharing it, the impacts of how they're sharing it. And I want to draw our attention to some exciting innovation in this space. The World Health Organization is innovating new digital approaches for listening to the concerns of people that they're sharing publicly. And this includes a pilot we've launched starting in 20 countries, including Colombia, to listen to the questions and concerns people are sharing publicly, so that we can better inform and better focus the community engagement response. We can identify gaps in understanding and provide more technical information and more support for better understanding those health measures. So this project is called EARS, right, for listening, which stands for Early AI, Artificial Intelligence, Supported Response with Social Listening. It's a mouthful, so we call it EARS for short. And it's currently working in 4 languages, including Spanish. And given the necessary resource, this is a tool that could be scaled up to many more countries worldwide, and is already providing some indicators for a global perspective on emerging topics of interest, questions, concerns that people are having, where we're seeing that maybe some changes in communication might be needed. For communicating about risk and evidence, there are lots of different tools and bits of information through multimedia that are coming out to help provide guidance on the things we need to be doing to keep ourselves safe and to protect those around us. And I would say here that there's always a need to advance these approaches and to work closely with communities from the very earliest stages of a health emergency. Actually, working with communities needs to happen before a health emergency as part of the preparedness phase, so we can build that trust and involve them in the development of public health measures from the earliest stages. And that really helps with better participation in these public health responses. And of course, as a part of that approach, we need to keep an open two-way dialogue going, so we have these feedback loops so that we can adapt our approaches as we go and as the COVID-19 situation continues to change. For the next priority on promoting resilience to misinformation. So this is one of several areas where I will say that we really need more investment into research and innovation. So infodemiology, it's the science behind infodemic management. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's an evolving area of research and practice. And WHO, or the World Health Organization, has gathered experts from 20 disciplines from around the world this past year to help develop a new public health research agenda for infodemic management. And this is really intended to help accelerate progress in research on infodemiology and infodemic management. And there are a lot of questions included in this research agenda that we need to ask and answer. You know, something ranging from how the overwhelming amounts of information are affecting people's behaviors, to more specifically digging into how the infodemic is influencing how people are seeking out their health services. You know, what are the particular tools and techniques to be able to counter misinformation in a way that still protects freedom of speech? So a lot of work to be done there. And the aim is for this research agenda to spark more collaborations, accelerate progress, to develop an evidence-based framework or approach for infodemic management. So WHO is working with partners to develop new tools and techniques for countries to flatten the infodemic curve. Here, this overwhelming, sudden, rapid increase in information, which includes all sorts of mixed messages, so that we can better flatten the epidemic curve. So we're using the epidemiological curve here as an analogy for the approach. And for implementing these new tools and techniques, I think this is a point that I will keep returning to. It's so important to keep communities at the heart of these efforts. And that is an aim of the risk communication and community engagement collective service with partners such as UNICEF and the Red Cross and Red Crescent societies. So an important step in supporting countries with infodemic management is also, I will say, training. Let me get to the next slide here. A new generation of infodemic managers. So these are people who have the diverse skills to do all of these things. If we go back to the infodemic curve here. So these are people who will be able to measure and monitor the impact that the infodemic is having during health emergencies, be able to detect and understand how information is spreading and the impact there, develop appropriate responses to the infodemic and evaluate those so we can figure out what is going to be more effective in terms of responding to COVID-19, but also preparing to respond for new and resurgent health threats. So this all comes part of strengthening overall public health systems and the resilience of communities. And so the nice thing about this infodemic manager training that we did this past year, it involved almost 300 participants from almost 80 countries from around the world. And actually, I should say, this is how I found out about this great event through one of the superstars from the World Health Organization and US CDC infodemic manager training, Fernanda. So a hat tip to you, Fernanda. Thank you for this invitation. And I think the important point to take away here is that this is something that, the World Health Organization can't do alone. This is something where we all need to get engaged, and it would be great to see infodemic management included in the public health curriculum of your university and every university in every country. That is the aim. And with that, I will end here and encourage everyone to be an infodemic manager in your daily life. We all have a role to play. We can all check our sources before we share information, ask ourselves, what is motivating a particular post? Is it evidence-based before we share? And this is also an important time as part of this movement for us to get involved in our community of fact checkers. We can all become champions for truth and help our public health authorities by sharing their advice and sharing our questions with them so they can see where more attention is needed. And so my final plea or call to action here will be to sign the petition to become an infodemic manager in your daily life. And also, if you're happy to subscribe to our newsletter, that is a fantastic way to stay up to date on the evolving discipline of infodemic management. Thank you.